Kierkegaard's understanding of faith, I suppose. Well, today we're picking up with post-Hegelians in a sense. I don't know that they're necessarily called that. We talked about John Stuart Mill last class, and he's influenced by Hegel along with the whole milieu at that time. Remember, he's a contemporary of Charles Darwin, and Darwin's idea of evolution is essentially Hegel's philosophy applied to biology. And by the way, Hegel never applied his system of thinking to biology. It never occurred to him to think that biology evolved. Remember, Aristotle didn't think so either. He thought everything was kind of created as the kinds of animals they were, etc. And Hegel was really an Aristotelian that way, and probably didn't understand the idea of evolution, although, remember, some of his contemporaries were already talking about it at that time. And his philosophy actually leads people to apply it to not just biology, which he didn't, but also the earth. So there are contemporaries of this period that begin realizing that there are different kinds of rocks and different strata, and they're mostly British at the time. So if you look at the different kinds of rock periods, or whatever you call them, geologic periods, notice they mostly have British names because the Brits were the ones that went around England going, hey, this rock is different than this rock, and so they started naming them by the community where those rocks were. And so you end up with these geologic periods, at least the ones that are found in England, named in those English communities' names. So that's kind of an odd, interesting thing. And eventually, of course, we would get the idea that the universe evolves as well. So you've got, the idea of everything, moving away from everything else. Which, have you ever tried doing that? If we were, now that we have some more folks coming in, I hope you're all enjoying our nice spring weather. Happy Easter, everyone. And you're all full of ham, I suppose. Although this is the hardest time of year to find kosher ham. You ever notice? You go to the supermarket and ask people for kosher ham. Why is that? Shouldn't that be funnier than it was? No one's laughing. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't.
You don't get it?
Mm-hmm.
Kosher
Isn't it
is the
Jewish diet?
that's not sinful, basically. It's the proper diet. I don't know how else you would explain it. It's kind of like and if you're Arabic, you don't want to eat. What's the there's a store on the corner of Debar and Boniface, I think, where you can go and buy food. It's just a little store, but it sells food that is Islamic.
Halal.
What?
Halal.
Halal. Thank you. I'm old. I'm getting older. Thank goodness. That's the best way to go.
Muslims right now for this month.
Ramadan.
Yeah, they can't eat only early in the morning and at night.
That's what I'm hearing.
So the joke, that was a joke actually. Pork products are not something that either of those two cultures consider clean, basically. So you should not eat them. And so the idea of finding a kosher ham for Easter is hilarious on multiple levels. However, I guess you have to be familiar with why. I have seen, Facebook being the kind of thing it is, I have seen people post pictures of ham labeled kosher. which, you know, that's, you don't even need to explain why that would be a picture that you should post. You know, it's that kind of picture. So I was joking when actually everyone I know was eating ham, so that tells you where I'm from, I suppose. So happy spring. You know, we've made it though. We're up to 100 inches of snow so far in the Anchorage Bowl, which is not really you know, I think our average is like around 5 foot a year of snow, and we're up to 8 foot now. So that's like, wow, you know, one for the record books. And by the way, did everybody enjoy the 4.7 that we had?
When was it?
Yes, you felt it? It was it
Yeah, I did
yesterday at 4:15 or something?
It was very short though.
It seemed like boom, and we're done. You know, that's how that works. But we had a 3 something a day or two before that, and now we got a 4.7, and you're like, and where are we going next? The Earth is evolving, right? So this is not a terra firma, the medieval notion of it. I think if you live in the Middle East, you know that. I don't think they have earthquakes in Europe.
No idea.
No idea. No idea. But there are folks that think that the Earth is actually expanding. So not only an expanding universe, so everyone, you know, if I were to suggest everybody get up from your seat and move away from everyone else without moving closer to anyone else, would that work?
No.
No, right? You would have to move towards some people in order to move away from other people, because we're in a three-dimensional space area, and in order for space to be expanding, you really have to have. It's explained, I think, by Stephen Hawking years ago as like a balloon. You know, if you've got a balloon, you think of the Earth as a balloon, or you think of space as a balloon, and you're blowing up the balloon. As you blow up the balloon, all the dots on the surface of the balloon are moving away from all the other dots, because the actual balloon itself is expanding. Right? See how that works? So space expanding, all the stars. I was watching a 15-minute show about the Webb Space Telescope and all the new galaxies they're seeing everywhere, and they can measure how far away they are by the light as it's being received. You could tell how far away the light has traveled. And so you essentially can determine how far away these furthest galaxies are by the wavelength. It's the same as when a train goes, if you have a train, I've been in a lot of villages, they don't have cars, let alone trains. That could be funny too. No one's in the mood to laugh this morning.
It's the snow, I
It's
swear.
really-
No, it's the
really-
snow.
Really tough crowd here. But in any case, you know, the train as it's going by, the whistle goes, "Woo!" You know, what's it called? The something effect. Nobody knows
Sound
physics.
effect. The sound effect.
The Doppler effect, right? Doppler. He's the guy that thunk it up, right? Doppler. Why is it making that noise? I think he was Italian, Doppler. No, maybe not. You know.
Did you watch the Mario movie?
I did not.
It's so
I'm
good.
puzzled by why anyone would watch
No, it's so
the
good.
Mario.
It's so good.
But okay, I thought it was a game. You know, I was like, you know, and why would you watch a movie about something? I don't know.
Seth Rogen.
Okay. Well, so the universe is expanding. The Earth, some people think, is expanding, which would explain why, you know, if you take the one continent paracontinents, however you want to call them, North and South, and Europe and Africa, and you went like, they would pretty much all fit. In fact, if you took all the land masses and you went, they would all fit. And of course, what we've got are these oceans and so on in between them now, which could be that the plates are moving around. That's one theory. Could also be that the Earth itself is expanding and everything's moving around, and it's expanding at like the Mariana Trench or wherever. But it could also be both of them, actually. There's no problem with that. So basically, evolution. Everything is evolving. And John Stuart Mill specializes with regard to ethics as evolving. So utilitarianism is focused on the idea of using science to figure out what the greatest good for the greatest number of people is. And as our science expands, so should our ability to understand and change our ethics to make life better for everyone, really, right? Greater number, right? You look.
Off-topic question for just 1 second, and I promise to get back on it and stop me whenever you like. Do you think the government is actually trying to do the best thing for the greater good? Like, there's a bunch of chemicals in like every product we use, going from shampoos to like what we eat and everything. Like, do you think they're actually?
Well, the problem with
I'm just
utilitarian
saying,
theory.
we can answer that ourselves, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, the problem with utility, and we've already kind of butted our heads up against this,
Yeah.
is that you're faced with David Hume's argument that reason is the slave of the passions, and your passions are not the same as your passions, right? And so you can use reason as well as you can try to persuade this person, but at root, you're passionate about, say, not killing any fetuses, and your passion is letting the woman decide for herself whether she's ready to have a child or not, etc. Right? I mean, you can have, and your reasons are not going to persuade the reasons of this person. We see this happening in government all over the place. The latest expulsion of 2 of the representatives from the legislature in Tennessee because they broke the rules, because they were trying to be heard despite the fact that no one else wanted to listen to them. So they brought a bullhorn into the legislature, and I think I would have voted to expel them too. That's just totally not the way the House should run. But if you followed the news at all, you see that it appears that they were expelled for other reasons, right? Not breaking rules. It's hard to kind of disagree with that. So what? Long story, in response to your question is, as Americans, and I think in pragmatic terms, the answer would be yes, everybody in government is trying to do what they think would be the best for the greatest number, but they're in different positions with regard to what that would be. And an interesting argument for democracy is that you end up with this idea of people getting to vote their point of view. Although just in my short life, I know 71 years might not seem short to other folks, but I've seen the pendulum swinging back and forth over many different issues. For a while we're all for everybody should have free medical care. It goes the other way. I thought, no, we can't afford that. It's, but we should. I mean, it's a constant battle in our society, and the population changes its point of view, so that what you see are polls that reflect, wow, you like Trump? Oh, now they don't like Trump. Right? So people were being persuaded in this dynamic Hegelian war of ideas, war of groups, everything is in conflict. And in fact, when Hegel talks about, it's to the death. In some of the arguments it is, literally. That's why some fear violence and so on. But we could also say that, at least in the United States, we're relatively unique, that we've accepted the idea that individuals have rights. I mean, when they presented King George with a document that said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, George was like, what? Remember, he was the king. Nobody's equal to the king. That's just ridiculous. Who says this is self-evident? And then to blame it on God created all men, equal, and with rights to life, liberty, and the freedom. Tell that to a chicken that you're getting ready to harvest, No rights for you. That's it. You're done, right? Because you're my dinner, right? You know how that works. So that was an invention of the social contract philosophers, that people have membership as citizens, at least those who do have citizenship, right? And that they have rights. So that evolved right in that time period. Yes, many of them thought this was a God-given right that they had just invented, but nonetheless they still thought God was the one responsible for it. Hey, I just noticed. God must have meant for us all to have these rights, right? And even in the paper this morning, I see someone arguing about the rights of the mentally ill in Alaska are not being respected. And I'm thinking, this is a person who thinks the mentally ill have rights. Who invented that and when? It wasn't recent. I mean, it's like within years, really. This is an ongoing conflict, right? Because if you read Foucault's book, A History of Madness, you basically have people being locked out of town, locked into a jail. If they were acting weirdly, people didn't want them anywhere around, and they didn't think of them as having rights. They just wanted them gone, right? Period. Out of sight, locked up, not concerned about them having rights, right? So this is a new issue. So, yes, they are. It's just that no one's really in agreement